Well, howdy there, Internet students. It's Mr. Hermanson here. This is the new lesson, 1.4 lines. We're going to use a new tool in this uh, lesson to help you understand graphs and tables and equations, linear equations especially, and that's the graphing calculator. So if you have a graphing calculator, you might want to go and grab that right now and have that next to you the whole time. Your other option would be to use the Desmos online calculator. Here's how you can find that, or you can use the link I put in the classroom. So we want the Desmos graphing calculator. And it looks like this. You might have to sign up to get yours to work, but I'll show you how to use this graphing calculator and also your handheld graphing calculator in this lesson. All right, so what we're going to try to discover is some characteristics of lines and how we can just look at their equations and tell what's going to happen with those lines a little bit. This is just a place you can keep track of your quiz scores if you like. So first thing we're going to do is get comfortable with your graphing calculator, do some exploring. So what we're going to do is graph. You're going to use your graphing calculator to graph each of the following equations, then make a sketch of each graph below. Now, I'll do the first equation for you. And when you make your sketch, I'd like you to make sure that you accurately depict the slope and the y-intercept. That's going to help you understand what's going on. So if we use our Desmos for the first one, you're just going to type in y equals x plus 3. And it'll show you the graph. Now notice there's a couple points on here, right there and right there, that you want to accurately depict. So if you touch those on your graph, if you have a touch screen, or you can hover over them with your mouse and click on them, then you can find out exactly where they are if you're using the Desmos calculator. So I have a point at -3,0 and a point at 3,0. Okay, so I want to make sure that I get those 2 points fairly accurate when I make my little sketch here. All right. So there's my first sketch. Now to graph the 2x plus 3, you're just going to go to your Desmos calculator, and this works pretty slick. Just put in 2x plus 3. You can see how it changed. Again, touch the screen to see where that point is crossing. That looks like -1.50 and 3. Okay, and then -1.50 is about right there, and 3 is about right there, and then draw that line in. Try to be fairly accurate. Okay, now if you're using a graphing calculator to do that, here's how you would do that. This is what your screen will look like on your graphing calculator. All right, so your keyboard looks like this keyboard, and your screen looks like this screen. And right now, to put in an equation, you're going to press this button right here. You'll see it light up in red when I touch it, so you can see what button I pushed and when you go back to that. And then the x variable is right there, look in red. I actually hit it too many times there. You can use the back arrow and the clear button to clear things, but I'm going to do x and then plus and then 3. And then to graph that, you press the button that says graph. Okay, and again, you want to look very carefully where the line is crossing the x and the y axis. So and then when you want to change that, go back to your y equals, type in your new equation. You can press clear if you want, but you can just type over it too. 2x plus 3, press graph, and you'll see that one. Okay, so what I'd like you to do now is to sketch out these graphs, um, the rest of these, and then check back and just look at my graphs to see if you did them right. And then we're going to compare and contrast them. All right, if you graphed them right, they should look something like that. And now you're going to just make some observations. And then try to make connections with the equations, but write down anything you notice about group 1, similarities, differences, and group 2, similarities and differences. Okay? And think about some of the things we talked about when we were dealing with lines like slope and y-intercept, stuff like that. So go ahead and give that a shot, and I'll let you know what I'm thinking. All right, so here's what I noticed. In group 1, I noticed that each one of them crosses right at about 3. In fact, they all cross at 3 on the y-axis. Okay, and on the second group, the lines all have the same slope. All right, so look closely at what you notice about the equations when they all have the same slope. Notice they all have a -3 in front of the x. And in the first one, when the y-intercepts were all the same, notice they're all +3 in the end. So we probably could have made that prediction. Okay? Now, so it says look back at the graphs of the equations of group 2. What do you notice about them? They all have the same slope. If two equations in y equals mx plus b so number 2 says if two equations in y equals mx plus b form have the same m value, what will you know about their graphs? So that was the second group that we looked at down here. We know that their graphs will have the same slope, and so if we put two of these equations on the same graph, those lines will be parallel. Actually, I can put all of them if you want, but notice that the lines are going to be parallel. All right? So, so we know that if the m value is the same, the lines will be parallel. So go ahead and do number 3. Pick the lines that you think will be parallel in that group. See if you get them right. You should have picked A and C. They both have the same coefficient, 2. So, and they have different y-intercepts. I'll circle those in blue. So they're going to cross the y-axis at different places, but they're going to have the same slope because of this number right here, 2. Okay, now some of you might have thought, but this one has 2, but remember, this is not a linear equation, so we can cross that one out because it's linear, and this one has a different coefficient, so that one won't be. Okay, so now to get increasing lines, the slope has to be positive, and to get decreasing lines, the slope has to be negative. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to write 3 equations that you think will be increasing and be parallel. So we just learned that in order to be parallel, the coefficients have to be the same, but the y-intercepts have to be different. Okay, and then you're going to do 3 decreasing lines, so they will have negative slope. So go ahead and give that a shot, and then use your calculator or Desmos to make the graph and sketch the graph for those 3. All right, I'll check back with you to see how you did on that. All right, so here are my choices. Notice I kept the coefficient the same. And it's positive for these 3, and they're parallel. And then on the second group, I made my coefficient negative to make them decreasing lines, and they're all the same. All right. So you're ready to do this homework. You're going to need your graphing calculator. It says do this without graphing, so what I'd like you to do is think about it first, what they would look out like without drawing the graphs. And then go ahead and use your calculator and just see if you were right. All right? On your homework assignment, I'll give you some multiple choice so you can figure out what answer you want to put in there. All right, good luck with that. We'll talk to you soon.